I want you to picture something before we get into this. You're sitting in a coffee shop, maybe waiting for a friend. Maybe you're just enjoying a quiet morning. A stranger walks in, nice looking, normal person, wearing a pair of Ray-Ban sunglasses, and they glance in your direction. And their glasses know your name, not because you told them, not because you agreed to anything, not because you did something wrong, but because their glasses looked at your face, converted it into a biometric signature, and matched it against a database in under a second, without a sound, without your knowledge, and without your consent. That is not science fiction. That is not a warning about what might happen someday. This is the feature Meta has been quietly building inside of an app that has already been downloaded to over 50 million phones. They call it NameTag, and they didn't tell you. We live in a world where the most powerful technology ever built is being handed to you without instructions, without warnings, and without anyone asking whether it serves you or uses you. That question has a name: the virtuous machine. I'm Michael Ruthier, and this is Tech for Grownups, the show that believes technology should answer to human beings, not the other way around. This is the show the tech industry doesn't want you to hear. No corporate talking points, no sponsored opinions, just honest conversation. Let's go. Now, let me tell you what actually happened, because I want facts on the table before I tell you what I think about those facts. Now, on June the 4th of 2026, Wired, one of the most credible technology publications in the world, published a technical investigation, let's call it that. And what they found should have been the lead story on every news channel, every radio program, and every front page on the planet. Now, buried inside Meta's AI companion app, the app you need to operate the Ray-Ban and Oakley smart glasses, Wired found fully functional facial recognition code. Not theoretical, okay? Not in a lab, not in development. On your phone, already there, already working. Distributed quietly across multiple app updates, starting as early as January of 2026. And that's months before Meta said a single word about it publicly. And here is exactly how it works in plain language, because you deserve to understand this. 3 AI models already installed on your device. The first one detects faces, every face the glasses see. The second one crops and repositions the image, cleans it up, and optimizes it for processing. The third one converts that face, your face, a stranger's face, your daughter's face, your neighbor's face, into something called a face print, a unique biometric signature, like a fingerprint, but for your face. And that face print gets checked against a database stored on the wearer's phone. And if the face is recognized, the wearer gets an alert. They know who you are. And if the face is not recognized, and here is the part I need you to really hear, the image gets cropped, indexed, and saved to a folder. The folder is labeled pending. Pending, their word, not mine. As in, we'll figure it out. We'll figure out what to do with these faces later. Now, when Wired confronted Meta about this, the company's spokesperson said they are merely exploring these types of features. And that, what Wired found is, and I'm quoting directly, just evidence of that exploration. Just evidence of that exploration. They shipped working code to 50 million phones. They built 3 dedicated AI models. They created a folder for storing strangers' faces. And they would like you to file all of that under exploration. Now, I know what some of you are already thinking. Some of you are saying, Michael, calm down. It only identifies people in your contacts, people you already know. Why is that a problem? Well, I'm going to explain exactly why that framing is one of the most dangerous things Meta has ever said. And they have said a lot of dangerous things in the past, but this one really gets me. First, who controls what your contacts actually means? Your contacts list is not a private sealed vault. It is a database that Meta has had access to for years. And give that some thought. Every time you gave an app permission to access your contacts, every time someone who has your number uploaded in their contacts to Facebook or Instagram or WhatsApp, your information went with it. Now, the boundary between people I know and people Meta's system knows about is not the clean line the reassurance implies here. I don't think it ever was. Now, second, the architecture doesn't stay at contacts. This system doesn't look up contacts. It creates face prints of every face the glasses capture. It stores the unrecognized ones in that pending folder, and it checks them against a database that is configured to receive updates from Meta servers. That is not a contacts lookup tool in any definition of it. That is the foundational infrastructure of a universal face database. I'll just call it what it is. The contacts only framing is the first use case. It is not the last. And now third, and this is the one I most need you to sit with, okay? What happens when this data exists and a government comes asking for it? That is my concern, because that question has already been answered, not by speculation, not by conspiracy theory, but by history, public record, and Meta's own transparency reports. Meta has complied with government data requests tens of thousands of times. Every major platform has. When a law enforcement agency presents a legal demand, the companies hand over what they have. Now, right now, what they have is messages and posts and location history. That's already invasive, already used in ways that should concern every person in this community. But now add face prints, unique biometric signatures tied to identities generated every time someone wearing these glasses looks in your direction, and you have something categorically different. That's the issue. You have a database of where specific human faces were, when, and in whose company. You have a surveillance log of every person who was ever seen by a Meta glasses wearer, and you never agreed to be in it. Now, I want to take you back to 2024 for a moment, because 2 Harvard students already showed us this movie, the one we're talking about today, and nobody paid enough attention to it. 2 graduate students took a pair of Meta Ray-Ban smart glasses, the first generation, which I own a pair, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And at that time that they did this, no NameTag was available from Meta. No built-in facial recognition existed. It was the basic version of these glasses. They connected them to external facial recognition software. that is available to anyone with an internet connection and a few $100s. Then they walked around Harvard's campus. Now, this is where you need to really pay attention. In real time, from a stranger's face, they could pull that person's name, age, home address, and phone number without any special access, without government clearance, without anything that isn't already commercially available. And that was 2024, before NameTag. That was before Meta built 3 dedicated AI models into their app, before they started storing strangers' faces in a pending folder on 50 million devices. After that demonstration, the ACLU and 75 civil rights and privacy organizations sent a letter directly to Mark Zuckerberg. 75 organizations. Think about that. They called this technology, and I'm quoting their exact words, so this isn't from me. They called it a red line society must not cross. They warned that this technology will allow anyone wearing the glasses to identify people at protests, at medical clinics, at religious services, at support groups, and link those identities to databases containing health information, political affiliations, personal relationships, and home addresses. 75 organizations, the ACLU, and a letter to Zuckerberg. But you know what happened? They kept building. Now, here's the part of the story that makes me the angriest. And I want to say it slowly and clearly because the dishonesty here is breathtaking in its precision. In April 2026, just 2 months ago, Meta said publicly on the record that if they were to utilize face recognition, they wouldn't roll it out without first taking a very thoughtful approach. Very thoughtful approach, their words. Are you kidding me? Now, in January 2026, 3 months before that public statement, the core components of NameTag were already being shipped to millions of phones in app updates. Now, I want you to hold both of those facts in your mind at the same time. Think about that. The public statement about caution, the private action already underway. And ask yourself this, which one is the real Meta? Because this is the same company that in 2023 was fined $1.3 billion by the European Union for illegally transferring European users' personal data to the United States. The largest privacy fine in history at that time. Come on. Join me here. This is the same company that paid $650 million to settle a class action lawsuit in Illinois for collecting biometric facial data. Exactly the kind of data we're talking about today, without user consent. This is not a cautious company by any means. Not a company with a track record of earning trust on privacy. Not at all. A company that has been fined and sued exactly for this behavior and kept going. That is who they are. Now, I ask this question about every piece of technology we cover on this show. The virtuous machine question, the only question that actually matters. What is this actually for? Not what Meta says it's for, not the press release version, not the thoughtful approach language. What is NameTag? The pending folder, the faceprint database, the code sitting on 50 million phones right now. What is it actually for? I'll tell you what it's for. It's for the elimination of anonymity in public space. That's what it's for. This is the end state of this technology, whether Meta intends it or not, whether the feature launches with contacts only framing or not. Once face prints are being generated for every face that passes in front of these glasses and stored and updated from Meta servers and accessible to legal requests from any government with jurisdiction over Meta's operations, the concept of moving through the world without being identified, logged, and connected to a permanent database is gone. Not for criminals, not just for protesters or dissidents or people with something to hide. For everyone. For your daughter walking to the pharmacy, for your neighbor at their doctor's appointment, and for you sitting in that coffee shop, not doing anything wrong, just existing in a public space, having never agreed to be scanned or stored or filed in a folder marked pending. Now, the ACLU said this technology would destroy the expectation of privacy or anonymity in public and would chill free expression for everyone. And they're right. They're damn right. They said it 4 months ago, and Meta, they kept shipping the code. Think about that. They kept shipping the code. Amazing. Now, I'm not going to leave you with nothing but anger. That's not what this show is for. So here's what I actually want you to do today, not someday, today. 1, do not, and I repeat, do not buy Meta smart glasses. Not the Ray-Ban, not the Oakley, not any version coming in the future until this is resolved with legally binding protections. As I said earlier, I own a pair of them, and I have not worn them in months. Even before this, I felt something was off because there was way too many updates coming out. But now my senses, my tingling was correct. I don't want you to buy these glasses yet, and don't even go with press statements or not thoughtful approaches. Binding law. Every pair sold expands the network of cameras that can feed into this system. You're helping them create a large database. Your purchase is a vote, and I want you to cast it carefully. Now, number 2, check your phone for the Meta AI app. Go look right now after this episode. If it's installed and you don't use the glasses, delete it. The facial recognition code is sitting on your device whether you use it or not. You get to decide today whether it stays there. And 3, contact your elected representative and ask them one question. Write it down, send it. What is your country's legal framework for preventing the collection of biometric data from citizens without their consent in public spaces? If they can't answer that clearly, that is the answer. And you are allowed to be unsatisfied with it, please. I mean, you can voice your concerns. And number 4, support the organizations doing the unglamorous work here. The Electronic Privacy Information Center at epic.org and the ACLU at aclu.org. These are the organizations bringing legal pressure, pushing regulators, and fighting the battles that need to be won before the technology becomes normalized. They need public visibility and they need public support. Give it to them. Now, Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Meta said in April they were thinking through whether to release NameTag. The code had been on your phone since January. That is not a thoughtful approach. That is not transparency. That is not a company that has earned your trust, your data, or your face. And here's the question I want to leave you with. The one I think deserves a real public conversation. At what point does a private company's ability to build a database of human faces without consent, without oversight, and without meaningful legal accountability become something that society decides it simply won't allow? Because that line exists. Every society draws it somewhere. The question is whether we draw it now while the architecture is still being built and the legal frameworks are still being written, or whether we wait until the pending folder is full. And the answer is decided for us at that point. Now, that's it for today's episode. If this conversation is one you think more people need to hear, please do me a favor and share it. But I also want you to, which would help the show, leave a review if you're on Apple Podcast or Spotify or wherever, a review or something. I would greatly appreciate that. Now, the people most affected by what Meta is building are the ones least likely to hear about it from anyone else. Everything from today's episode, the full blog post, the sources, the links to the ACLU and EPIC is at techforgrownups.com. I'll put the link in the show notes. And if you want to continue this conversation meaningfully, come find us in the free Tech for Grownups community. Look, there's no pressure, no sales pitch, just honest conversation about the things that actually matter. Now, I want you to stay sharp, stay loud, and don't, and I mean it, don't let the technology run ahead of you. This is Tech for Grownups. Marcus Aurelius asked a question that I think about every time I sit down to record this show. What is it fundamentally that this thing is for? Not what it claims to be for. What is it actually for? That's the virtuous machine question. And it applies to every piece of technology being built right now. The AI, the algorithms, the platforms, all of it. You'll find everything from today's episode at techforgrownups.com. Join the conversation in the community. The link is there. Stay sharp, stay loud, and I'll see you in the next one.